Welcome to the Iron Range, where we held 2 anti-racist poetry and writing workshops on October 7th and 8th, 2023. It was presented and facilitated by Hedy Tripp, who was a fiscal year 2023 recipient of Creative Support for Individuals grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board. This activity is made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board, thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. The workshops were held in St. Louis County at the Lyric Center for Arts in Virginia and the Voices for Ethnic and Multicultural Awareness Center in Chisholm. This video is being produced by Lindsay Audrey, that's me. I met Hedy at the Springboard for the Arts 2022 Creative Community Leadership Institute, which is an intensive, in-person, cohort-based training program with real-world practice for artists, culture bearers, community organizers, community development practitioners, and other leaders seeking to deepen their impact in creative community building. I invited her to come to the Iron Range, and she came to the Juneteenth celebration on June 18, 2023. She asked folks to fill out a form for what they thought anti-racism means. We invited the community out, and the turnout became a beautiful conversation about the history of racism and how it continues to play a part in our society. We invite you to view a portion of these sessions and encourage all to reach out to either the Lyric Center or VEMA to have your own workshop towards change.
So Hedy Tripp is an Asian American elder and an award-winning poet and writer. She has served on the Governor's Council of Asian Pacific Minnesotans as a Singaporean representative, as artistic director of the Multicultural Children's Art Connection. She produced Racism, No Way, Let's Celebrate Today in 1998 in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Tripp received the prestigious City of St. Cloud's Legacy Award in 2022 in recognition of her work as a social justice activist and her engagement with the community for the last 35 years. So welcome, Hedy.
Thank you. And when the sun rises, we are afraid it might not remain. When the sun sets, we are afraid it might not rise in the morning. When our stomachs are full, we are afraid of indigestion. When our stomachs are empty, we are afraid we may never eat again. When we are loved, we are afraid love will vanish. When we are alone, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive.
Oh, I'm Sarafia Gravel, co-executive director of Voices for Ethnic and Multicultural Awareness, also known as VEMA. And we are at the VEMA Multicultural Community Center in Chisholm, Minnesota. Anti-racism recognizes the pain of racism in all its forms and seeks to transform systems as we engage bravely, empathetically, and creativity. So it's a trigger warning, just so that you expect that in that content there's going to be references to racism and misogyny and classism, gender violence, and those types of things.
On the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. So you can understand why this language is so baked into American society. You can understand why 38 Dakota men were lynched in Mankato. You know about the lynching, right? Dakota lynching, and how that dehumanization and stereotyping still continues. Your Halloween is coming up. What are you going to do when you see folks that are dressed up as Indians and are not Indians? Yeah. You might want to think about, what do you speak up? Do you let it go? What is your anti-racist action on that? That's a challenge. And I asked, well, what is anti-racism? I said, I don't know. There's a question mark. It's unknown. You know, they know what racism is. What is anti-racism? So that caught me.
That's whenever I hear the word anti-racism, just me, I my brain thinks a little differently, so I just like right away goes to fighting racism, it goes to standing up for others.
This is not a small voice you hear. This is a large voice coming out of the cities. This is the voice of Latanya, Kadisha, Shaniqua. This is the voice of Antoine, Daryl, Shaquille, running over waters, navigating the hallways of our schools, spilling out on the corners of our cities. And no epitaphs spill out of their river mouths. This is not a small love you hear. This is a large love, a passion for kissing, learning on its face. This is a love that crowns the feet and hands, that nourishes, conceives, feels the water sails, mends the children, folds them inside our history, where they toast more than the flesh, where they suck the bones of the alphabet and spit out closed vowels. This is a love colored in iron and lace. This is a love initialed Black genius. This is not a small voice you hear.
So you acknowledge racism, it exists, right? You don't have to really prove that it exists. So understand it, you said that. And again, and recognize that it is an abuse of power. Power is good. You can be empowered, power is good. But when you abuse it, and you bring in the intersectionalities of race and gender and class, that's what your analysis is, right? And then actions, as you were saying, just stop. But how do you stop? How do you strategize to stop, right? Putting theory into practice. And for me, I think what you did for Juneteenth was an anti-racist act. You put into action your acknowledgement, some more analysis, what's happening, history, right? But this is one way to have folks see what's going on.
Practice persistent accountability. Practice committed neighborhoods and community-based conversations. Practice acknowledging challenges. Practice deep connections and better morale. Practice restrained response. Practice collaboration and cooperation. Practice leadership and change despite the challenges. Practice community.
One day, this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. I have a dream today.